Okay, I wanted to make a video about the best documentaries I have ever seen. So first of all, I tried a lot of recording software and tried to fix my microphone, and that took a hell of a long time. So YouTube compresses every video file, so no matter what I upload, it will compress it. So the text won't be crisp, but you can see the correct text on the site imdb.com. So this is some of the documentaries I've seen. As you can see, I've seen 647 documentaries all in all, on this site at least. And this is how many titles I've seen all in all. So TV shows, movies, stuff like that, mostly movies. Okay, this is not all the documentaries I've seen, because I think maybe 10 to 20% of the documentaries I see, they are not on imdb.com. So no one has put them into this system. So yeah, so I just watch them and I cannot put them into anything. I just I don't know. I have watched them, but they're not here. And yeah, mostly I try to put every documentary in that I watched, but yeah. Okay, let's see. This is how I rated them. You can see this is the ones I watched. You can see them all here. Scrolling. A lot of stuff here. And this is just page 1 of 3. So 7 is okay. So I will recommend it if you're interested in that topic. Then 7 is quite good for that topic, and it's quite informative. And 8, it's great. So it's intriguing, it's exciting, it's entertaining, it's fascinating, it's well made, it's quality, great narrator, everything is great. And 9 is it changes your perception of life and changes your perception of reality, and it makes you a different kind of person because you learn so much of it from it. So this is really compact knowledge and great knowledge, great presentation. And 10, it's perfect documentaries. Like I would talk about these documentaries if I had to illustrate what a perfect documentary is, or how to make a perfect documentary. So as you can see, Penn and Teller bullshit. I gave it a 10. I don't know if some episodes are not that good, and it's also libertarian, so it's not totally objective, but a lot of these episodes really changed my way of viewing the world, and I didn't even watch it that long ago. I think this is when I watched it, yeah. So yeah, this really changed my view on the world, and there's a lot of information, and it's well made. And of course hoop dreams and stuff like that. But let's see, this is I probably watched 1,000, maybe 1,200, something about that. Also there's a lot of for example, Al Jazeera is a channel from Qatar. They make a lot of small documentaries. I don't know what they're called, like journalists go all over the world and then they film certain things. Mostly they film poor people or Muslim people in some different kind of country, and they are made like documentaries, but they are not on mostly not on IMDb, so I cannot say that I watched them on this site. But let's see, best documentaries ever made. The first one is let's see the list first. We cannot start with one. There we go. This is my list. This is how I see it. So I can click and edit and change things around. But this is my list of the best documentaries ever made. As you can see, I've moved stuff a bit around. So 10 will be a bit lower than these 9s, because I think they're more informative, but Penn and Teller is probably more entertaining as such. So I moved it a bit. I moved it a bit around. Also, this Dog Whisperer, it's a silly episode, but it's really great at illustrating a point. But it's still a bit silly and a bit short, so therefore I put it down here. Now let's see. There you go, Brainwash. I've also written a little text about it. It's a Norwegian documentary. I watch documentaries from all over the world. I don't care what language they're in. I just need to read the subtitles. In this, it has subtitles. I also improved them a bit for internet, to upload on YouTube. But yeah, this is my favorite documentary. I watched it one time. It changed my perception of the world. I watched it another time, and again, it was just as entertaining. That's incredible for me. I usually hate watching the same thing over again. But for this, I find it really, really great. It's a lot of science, a lot of discussion, nature versus nurture discussion. It has a lot of that, and it's well presented. So don't just be fearful of documentaries from other parts of the world, like Norway or Denmark or Sweden or maybe even, I don't know, Germany, stuff like that. They can have great documentaries. Most of the good documentaries are from USA, but look all over the world to find the great ones. Hoop Dreams, of course, you know that. That's not a this is a TV series documentary, so it has more than one episode. And Hoop Dreams only has one, like, really, it's like, yeah, one documentary. And yeah, there's nothing to say about it because it's so well made. They filmed it like over a year, and everything in it fits together because they were lucky that the story was there for them to film. So they didn't have to create a story like you see in a lot of modern documentaries, especially from USA. They try to create some storyline, so they kind of make the people act something out or make the narrator control what comes up next. And in Hoop Dreams, you just see the real ghetto, how it is and how you live there. And also, a lot of these people in the ghetto, you're not sure to live a long and healthy life. So sometimes the average age is like, or the average age of dying is 45. So a lot of people get shot, and this is for these people to take part of this documentary. It's a great thing because it's not like they can become super huge NBA stars, because that's just for really few people, so they cannot hope to become that, but they can hope to do their best, maybe star in a documentary if they're super lucky, and then they can earn a bit money on being like not famous but getting some contacts and maybe getting a small job somewhere, and then not have a terrible life. So that's what happens to some of these people, and some of them of course died at a young age after the documentary was made. And Fallen Champ, I think it's this one. I tried to find the documentary on IMDb, and I think I found it here with the Fallen Champ. I remember there was some like black and white scenes in it, and it's about Mike Tyson and how he's growing up, and he's also from the ghetto. A lot of documentaries that I like are with black athletes, just because there's a lot of suffering and a lot of great story in them, and a lot of social commentary stuff too. So yeah, this is Mike Tyson rising and falling in a really short time. Again, this is a bit like Hoop Dreams. You rise and you fall in a short time because you live in a ghetto, and your reproductive tactic is like getting a lot of kids and then not putting a lot of resources in them. And for Mike Tyson, of course, this has changed, so he puts a ton of resources in his kids' day. Touching the Void. Let's see, my fourth one on the list. A great documentary about a guy who survived hardships. So this is mountaineering, and this is the best mountaineering documentary ever made. and it's a really great story. Also, the story is already there, so he just have to narrate the story that's there. He doesn't have to make stuff up. And again, the Civil War, the story is there, right? This miniseries, and Ken Burns, the greatest documentary maker ever, made this one, and it has so many stars in it that it's just incredible. I mean, I think Samuel, I don't know, a lot of famous people have roles in this, but it doesn't really matter. Morgan Freeman, that's the guy who was in it, and yeah, great narration, great story, must watch for everyone. Doesn't matter where you live and if you have ever been to USA or not, just watch it. It's so well made. He goes to libraries, museums and stuff like that, then he finds photos of different stuff from the Civil War. Of course, you can't, there were no movies there are no cameras that can film scenes. You can only take photos, but they had a lot of photos from that time, so he has to make it a bit interactive so we don't get bored, and the photos, they move around on the screen, or the camera zooms in on a photo, and that's how they made it. They went to libraries, museums, and then zoomed in on these photos, and then afterwards they can put it all together and narrate it, or maybe even narrate it before they put it together, like they do in cartoons. And the effect is really great. And today he can do it all digitally, so he can just put a lot of photos on the PC and then zoom in that way. That's fascinating stuff. Penn and Teller. Probably if I rewatched it, I wouldn't give it a 10. I don't know why I gave it. I think I was just fascinated by it because there was nothing else like this on TV. But I think if someone tried to make something like this, then I would rate this a bit lower, because then it would not be unique anymore. And there's a lot of YouTube channels about science and about being critical and critical thinking and stuff like that. So they kind of make Penn and Teller less unique. But I still think it's unique, and I still think it's great. So even though it's from 2003, it still holds up. That's of course a problem with documentaries. I watch a lot of documentaries from the 60s to like see what people knew back then, and see learn about different ideas they had, different science projects they have, and usually they are really dated. So you can see that a documentary can really date in a bad way, because we have new science, we have new information, and often documentaries need to present some kind of information. Unforgivable Blackness, also Ken Burns, who else? And this is actually a great one, because I didn't know what the hell it was. I just saw a lot of people, I think it was on Reddit or somewhere, they said that this was a great documentary and it was a must watch, and I didn't know what the hell it was about. I never knew this Jack Johnson fella, so I watched it and I was totally perplexed by it. It was such a fascinating story. I think yeah, this is by far more fascinating story than Mike Tyson. I mean, his story. But I do think that in Mike Tyson's documentary, you have a lot of live shots and recordings and a lot of interviews and stuff like that. With the Unforgivable Blackness, you have a lot of old recordings, but you don't have direct interviews and stuff like that from the old age. So you have to let the narrator take you on the trip, a bit like Civil War. And then it becomes a bit less personal, because this is a personal story. So it doesn't really suffer from it, but if it had an interview with Jack Johnson, that would be amazing. That would make this documentary fantastic. Or just interview, you know, with all the people that were there at that time. And then Planet Earth. There's a Planet Earth 2. It was a hard watch for me. I think I just waited a year before I watched it, because nature documentaries, they are a bit hard for me to watch, because I love a lot of information really really fast. So when I know it's a nature documentary, I don't know what kind of pace it has. If the information comes in a rapid pace, and if it's slow. And if it's too little information, if it's too slow, then I'm afraid of getting bored. But this, of course, that didn't have that much information. David Attenborough kind of speaks a little bit, but not too much. But the scenes in it are amazing, and also this was the first time they used digital cameras. They were really afraid of using them because it's new technology, and you know how it is with new stuff, new technology. Usually a lot of faults in it and hard to use. But for planet Earth or nature documentary, it's perfect because you don't have to have these big film rolls everywhere. You don't have to film something for 10 minutes and then replace the film roll and then bury the film roll and then get it later to get it back to the studio. Here you can record on digital camera, and there's no film roll, so everything is inside the camera. You don't have to protect it from the weather by burying it. For example, if it's cold, weather is really cold or really hot or whatever, or hot, humid, the digital recordings won't break down. And that would be a problem back in the day. It could also burn up. So for this, they were really lucky because it was really easy to film it, and they could also get fantastic scenes and fantastic quality. And it's something that's really really noticeable. This was a huge leap from film to digital, and that's part of the reason that I think it's perfect, because it's such a fascinating tale. But I think the narration could be better because Sigourney Weaver also has the American version, and he has the English and all over the rest of the world. I think it could have contained more information, because a lot of information. I read a ton of book about animals and animal behavior, stuff like that. King of Kong, A Fistful of Quarters, is also a great story. This is one of these documentaries that kind of made up, so I don't know if the story is real or not. No one really knows it. If it's completely real. What we know is that it's super entertaining, and also most of it is probably real, and probably it happened the way that they made it out to be. But maybe the documentary makers influence some of the story, or influence some people, or influence the interviews and stuff like that, because it's really feel like it's a made up documentary. But the story is fantastic, so whatever. If I can love a movie, I can certainly love a fake documentary. But it doesn't matter, because these people are real, and they are the way they say they are. And Murder on a Sunday Morning. This one is great. I think everyone in the world should watch these kind of murder mysteries or documentaries about trials, because they show you how people can be biased, or how people can make the wrong decisions. So you see that the police investigation totally breaks down, because often the police will use their own feelings to get the murder or get the suspect. So for example, if it's they will walk around the street and then see someone who they think is suspicious, and then they will take him in, and then they will go over to the victim and then show her the picture of this guy and tell her, hey, isn't this the guy who hurt you or raped you or killed your husband or whatever? And then she will look at that picture, and they will try to make her say that this was the guy who did it, and she will remember, her memory of the event will be with this guy instead of an unknown face. That's usually that's something that they do all over the world, and you can see stuff like that in Murder on a Sunday Morning. It's not something that happens once in a while. It happens all the time. It's just that usually we have some control mechanism. You have a lot of different departments working on a case, so they can correct each other. They can say, okay, you cannot do it like this. You have to do it like this and this, and you have to have follow guidelines and follow the bureaucracy and stuff like that. So, but if you don't have that, if you have a small police department, then I can tell you it will break down. Let's just take a few more and then take a break. The Dust Ball, also 9. It's a fantastic story. Again, Ken Burns. And this is a story that's it's not something I knew a lot about. It's also presented in Interstellar, where they use some interviews from this documentary in the movie. It's actually quite interesting. Also, Interstellar used some of the same nature phenomenon, where they remove all the hills, remove all the bushes, remove all the trees. And what happens when a wind comes? There's nothing to stop the wind, nothing to stop the sand. So the wind just picks up the sand and then throws it everywhere. So everything is sandy. Fascinating story. There's also a movie about it. Grapevine, Rot of the Grapevines or something like that. Also one of my, maybe not one of my favorite movies, but probably my top 300 at least. And Cosmos, about science, highly rewatchable because it has so much good science in it. So it's really educational, and I could imagine that this is a documentary that's perfect for schools. And also the science is hard science, it's not social science as in my favorite documentary. So this is something that every school will know they need to teach. A lot of schools don't know that psychology is important. To understand human beings is important, but at least they know that hard science is important. And this one is one of the best hard science documentaries. And Pandora's Promise, number 13 most favorite documentary of all time. It's about nuclear power, and I think it's so well presented. It's a really interesting topic, and I've read a ton of books about it because I'm fascinated by how complicated it is and how many aspects you need to consider. A lot of psychology, a lot of science, physics, stuff like that, chemistry. There's so many objects in this one, and it's all mixes together in a huge you don't even know if it's psychology, sociology, or physics, or engineering, or whatever. It's all together into one, and that's atomic power. That's what you have with nuclear power, nuclear energy. It's all into one, and it's all our perception of engineering, our perception of a power, and we are so afraid of this mighty power that a lot of countries don't even use it, even though it has been by far the most safe power in the world. We look at all statistics, we look at all accidents from all the different power sources, and we see that nuclear power, even if we consider all the accidents, is by far the safest, and also one of the cleanest powers. At least for base power, it's probably the cleanest in the world. So it's really weird that we don't use it. And of course, a documentary cannot solve the problems of the world, but I think this one at least illustrates the problems really well. And Exit Through the Gift Shop, again, this is one this from Banksy, so you know what it's more like art and less like a true documentary. I actually don't know who played there's the lead actor in this one. I think maybe he's not an actor, maybe he's like a real guy they found somewhere, then made him play a role. But I don't know who he is. He's probably someone who like tried to get into the art scene but couldn't, and then they found him, and then they made him do all this weird stuff, and then they recorded him and made a documentary. So yeah. And he also designed a Madonna album cover, but I think it was, yeah, I don't think he exists, so it's probably Banksy who designed the cover. Ring of Fire, again a boxing documentary, again a black boxer, and yet again we see a boxer with a lot of humanity, and a story with a lot of humanity, and just yeah, just a great documentary, fascinating tale. So I think this is enough for the first video, and I will split it up. The second video will contain all the rest of the documentaries of my list.